Trigger warning, in this episode, we will be talking about suicide and self-harm. The purpose of this podcast is to provide a brief overview of the risk factors for suicide, the warning signs, and the actions a person can take to intervene. We will also be talking about the resources available to learn more about this topic, since this podcast is not a substitute for in-depth and formal training. If you feel triggered at any time, please remember that the suicide hotline is 988, and the URI Telus app, which can be found on the Counseling Services website, is available at all times to talk with someone who can help. Welcome to Roadie Wellness, where we explore all things health and self-care. Whether you're seeking mental clarity, physical fitness, or insight from students like you, we've got you covered. Welcome back to the Roadie Wellness podcast. I'm Olivia, and I'm here with Jessica Greene today. She's the Assistant Director with URI Health Promotions and Wellness. Hi, Jessica. Thank you for joining us today. You work with health promotions and lead the QPR training program here at URI. Can you tell the listeners what QPR is and why is it important for us to talk about suicide prevention?
Absolutely. Hi, thank you for having me. I have been a QPR Question, Persuade, Refer gatekeeper trainer for over 15 years, and the important note about QPR is that it is meant to be a quick 1-hour introduction to learning signs that someone may be considering suicide and learning how to ask the question, are you considering suicide, and connecting them with resources. It is a brief overview just meant to help people know what to recognize and how to respond. If someone was interested in more in-depth training, I highly recommend our mental health first aid training that we have here at URI, where you can get in-depth training about how to have a discussion with someone that they're concerned about. But QPR is meant to be just a quick intro to really recognize there's something concerning and then how to respond to that.
Yeah, thank you. And both of these trainings are done at URI, and anyone can take these trainings, part of the university, correct?
Yes, so QPR is offered once a month. You can check out our Instagram, URI Health Promotion, or check us out on URI Involved. And usually it's done around lunchtime, but they're offered once a month, a single month for the whole year.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
So why is talking about suicide prevention important? And also, what are some common myths that a lot of people believe about like suicide and suicide prevention?
Yeah, so we all have mental health, right? And so some days we have really great mental health and things are going well, and some days we're struggling and we could really use some support. I always like to tell our students, everyone comes to campus with baggage. Sometimes our bags are really, really full with all these things going on in our lives, and other times not so much. And so QPR is really meant for those people who feel like their baggage is really full and they're just not sure either how to connect to resources, or they don't feel comfortable, or they're not sure how to get help. And so it's meant for the bystander, the people that are their friends, their classmates, their teammates, their professors, the people they work with are recognizing there's some really, red flags. Something's going on with this person. I'm not sure what. I'm really worried about them, but I want to do something and I'm not sure how. And so QPR tells them the how. And there are definitely some myths about suicide. 90% of the time when someone's thinking about committing suicide, they will give a sign or a warning or say or do something to let other people know that they're considering it. And sometimes people are afraid to ask about thoughts of suicide. They're worried that if they ask, are you considering suicide, that they're putting that thought in the person's head. And the truth is that if someone's considering suicide, they probably have already had that thought for a while. And by you asking about it, you're really just showing you care. You're showing someone that you're worried, you see some concerning behavior, and you just want to know if you can help. And so whether they are actually having thoughts of suicide or not, you're relaying your care and your offer for help, which is really important.
Yeah, and that QPR and what we're going to go over today briefly is a way to help the bystander or the helper have a framework to go about and be more confident in those situations, to feel like that they know what to do and how to help.
Yeah.
Okay.
And almost gives them permission. Sometimes people are afraid to offer assistance or ask a question. They feel like they're, putting their nose in someone else's business, or they feel like they don't want to be a bothersome. But with mental health or concerning behaviors, it's okay to ask if someone needs help. It's okay to ask if they, to share what you're concerned about. You can say specifically, I haven't seen you in class in 4 days. I'm, concerned about you, or I never see you come out with us anymore, or you're always, crying, or you're saying these things that are, worrying me. I worry about you. Are you okay? Can I help? What's going on? So it's okay. It gives permission for people to step up and speak up about what they're concerned about, and then help ask the question if they're thinking about suicide and help get that person connected with resources.
What are some specific warning signs that a person could be able to recognize and identify in a person that could signal that they may need help and it might be a good idea for you to check in on them?
Absolutely. So there's definitely some things people say and do that can give us a red flag that, something's not right here. I'm concerned. I wonder if someone's thinking about suicide. Sometimes people are very direct, right? They might say, well, I've decided to kill myself. I don't want to be here anymore. I want it to end. I wish I were dead. And so if someone were to say those things, I would say take them very seriously and let them know that you care, that you don't want them to do those things, and make sure to get them connected with resources. Ask them how they help, why they feel that way. If you feel comfortable having a conversation, talking with them, but definitely have them connected with resources. Sometimes people feel very black and white about things like, oh, if I don't pass this class, I'm never going to graduate and I don't want to live anymore. If that person, if my boyfriend or girlfriend broke up with me, doesn't get back together, I don't want to be here anymore, I'll kill myself. And so that dichotomy, that black and white type of thinking is also very not healthy and can cause someone to consider suicidal ideation. Other things, sometimes people don't realize that the pain they're in, they were to commit suicide, would cause others pain. And so they really do feel that others would be better off without me. Like, oh, I'm such a waste, or people don't care. No one would care if I wasn't here anymore. And they don't realize that people would care, and people do love them, and they do matter, and they are important, and which is why QPR is so important, because we can verbalize that with someone who is struggling. Sometimes people do things that make you think they might be considering suicide. Like they might try and put their personal affairs in order, right? They might start sort of going around and saying goodbye to family and friends. They might write letters. They might pay back old debts. They might give away prized possessions. Maybe they have like a piece of jewelry or like a Xbox gaming system or something that was really important to them, and they're giving it away. They don't care anymore. Sometimes they might have a sudden either interest or disinterest in religion. Maybe someone who wasn't very religious all of a sudden becomes very religious, or someone who used to be very religious all of a sudden is disowning that. Sometimes there's like a light switch moment where the person has been struggling for a while, and then like overnight, it's like a light switch was flipped and all of a sudden they seem perfectly fine and happy, and you're thinking to yourself, wow, they're doing great. This is so odd. Just the other day, they were really just not well. And sadly, sometimes that means they feel that they see that peace of mind because they've made the decision to end their life and they feel at peace with that decision. And remember, QPR is meant to offer other decisions, other options. It's meant to offer hope for someone who's struggling. Sometimes it might look like they're getting better, but we realize maybe they're not. And it's okay to not know. You don't have to be the detective here. You don't have to have all the answers. The most important thing you need to do is recognize there's a concern and speak up about it and get that person connected with a resource. That's all we're asking with QPR.
Yeah, because as a student or as any person, it can be overwhelming to try to help someone, especially if you don't feel well equipped. So referring that out to other people and getting them connected to the resources is all really is what's really important.
Yeah, it can be scary, asking someone about these things, and it can be hard, and it can be, you don't want to say or do the wrong thing, or you're not sure what to do. So the most important thing is to not do nothing, now that now that you recognize the sign, now that you're having that concern, to speak up and share with someone. And at the end of the podcast, we'll talk about different ways that people can do that.
Yes. And we'd love you to do something if you can that's like, why we want to share this framework of QPR. But at the end of the day, referring resources is what's most important.
And being there with the person, letting them know that you see the pain they're in, and letting them know that you notice and that you care. Because sometimes I feel like we have that disconnect, and we need that reminder that I am important, I do matter, I'm not alone. So when we speak up and we tell the person that we're concerned about them, we're sharing that we care, and I think that we need to do that more.
After you recognize the warning signs, what is the next step, and what are some things that the person can ask to be able to show that they care and that they're interested in what that person's going through?
Yeah, anytime you're going to talk to someone about something sensitive, you want to make sure that you can do it in kind of like a private, secluded, area. You don't want to be, in the middle of the dining hall or where a lot of other people can like hear and see you, because it can be really uncomfortable, talking, and you don't want the person upset or embarrassed. And so, asking the person, hey, do you have a couple minutes? I just want to check in with you. We can, go meet in, our room or in the lounge or whatever, somewhere, private and secluded. Let the person know why you're there and make sure that you have resources available. Make sure you have time. You don't want to rush, having this conversation, but you don't want to wait, book it like 3 weeks out. If you are concerned, you want to try and do that, sooner than later. But it can be very simple. It can be as simple as saying, hey, are you okay? I'm worried about you. And making sure that you are talking to the person and giving them the choice and letting them take the lead. A lot of times we feel like we know what's best for the person, but really they're in their driver's seat. It's their choice, but we need to just show that we care and offer some options. So knowing those things in advance and being able to have that, conversation with someone is really, really helpful. So it's less important how you ask the question, are you having thoughts of suicide? It's more important that you check in with the person, let them know why you're worried, and being able to help them. And there's some ways that you could do that easily. You can ask them, hey, I'm really worried. I haven't, seen you around lately. You seem upset and seem unhappy. I wonder, have you been so unhappy lately that you've had thoughts about ending your life? You could ask the person, sometimes people are upset as you seem that they have thoughts of ending their life. I'm wondering, are you having thoughts of ending your life? And you can even ask directly, are you thinking about suicide? The one thing we don't want to say is, you're not thinking about suicide, are you? That double negative. And we also don't want to ask about hurting ourselves, because sometimes when people are in a suicidal mind frame, they don't see committing suicide as hurting themselves. They see that as the answer and the only solution to their problem. So they might say, no, I'm not thinking about hurting myself. But if you ask them, are you considering suicide? Are you thinking about killing yourself? They might respond differently to that. And they might say no. They might not tell you whether they have that intention or not. And that's okay. The most important thing is that you as a student are not the last person to check in with, the student, to connect them with a resource on campus, whether it's someone from Residence Life or a counselor, or filling out the information on the reported page. If it's something urgent, I would definitely not put on the reported page. I would go to a direct person, and we'll talk about urgency in a little while. But really just relaying that you're concerned, what the concern is, and asking them if they're okay and if they want to talk about it, and then ask them if they're thinking about committing suicide.
And just to reiterate that asking a person if they're suicidal or if they were thinking about committing suicide won't put that idea into their head. It'll actually validate their feelings.
Yeah.
And it gives them the permission to open up a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Jessica, for all that information. We're going to wrap up this episode here. Please tune in to the next 2 episodes where we are going to go over the Persuade part of QPR and then the Refer part of QPR. Before we wrap up, a quick reminder that all information shared in today's podcast is for informational and educational purposes only. Thank you for listening to another episode of Roadie Wellness. If you like what you heard today, tune in every Tuesday on all podcast platforms for more. If you want to stay up to date on events and healthcare tips, please follow us at URI Health Promotions on Instagram. And if you have any ideas for future podcast episodes or more social media content that you'd like to see, please feel free to DM us or email us. Until next time, take care and stay healthy.